It's 6:01. We'll call the meeting to order. And I'll just check in to see if there are any changes or additions to the agenda in the board. Not seeing any. We'll get rolling. So the first order of business is a permit for the work within the town right of way related to 207 GAR Road. The application was posted to the share drive. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to review that. This is exciting. I was actually just wondering about this. So this is a historic sign that was applied for by, I believe, a resident. What was it?
Colby Color.
Yeah. Young person who was motivated to seek a grant, essentially, that was paid for by the Division of Historic Preservation, talking about the Memorial Hall. And we had a presentation probably about a year ago.
Almost 2
years ago.
September.
So it sounds like we've got the sign.
The sign's in the basement.
Yeah. Signs in the basement of the Memorial Hall.
Yep.
Nice. And this seems pretty straightforward to me. Does anybody have any questions about the installation?
Just making sure it's not in the way of any traffic.
Well, being it's 30 feet from the center of the road, it really isn't in the town right away.
It's not in the town right
None of us 30 feet from the center of the road.
So does that put it in the pond?
That's, just don't want the town to put it in.
30 feet.
But the truck will be in the road. So essentially the work is being conducted in the right of way. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yeah.
I don't see any objection. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the application and placement of the sign as detailed in the map submitted with the application?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Sound like it. Great. Next item up is a spring check-in with listers and the zoning administrator.
Gosh.
Welcome. Yeah, so we're just kind of committing to going through a check-in with various officials and committees before we go through rounds of appointment. And I don't know if there's much to update us on for the listers other than the kind of the summary of the appraisal process, which at this point is completed its formal grievance period, and then there'll be a coordination of one official appeal that is going to the BCA that we just heard about, which we obviously can't speak about, but can acknowledge. That seems like a fairly straightforward process as well. One of the questions that came up during the BCA meeting that I think is probably fair to ask would be, assuming that the listers are going to be, representing the town in that appeal, are the listers feeling pretty confident in their ability to articulate the valuation that's being appealed? Because it sounds like the listers are going to have to do that, and NEMRIC at this point is out of the equation. That's my understanding, right?
Well, I didn't even know who was appealing until about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, okay.
And we don't want to get into.
Yeah. So we don't want to talk about any of the specifics, but
Well, you asked me if we felt confident that the assessed value was something Mooster's could have been.
No, I guess I'll rephrase that. Just the confident in the understanding of the I guess the valuation or the methodology that that NEMRIC applied to coming up with the valuations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I really understand it.
Yeah. Perfect.
That's a public record.
It is, that's right. Yeah, no, that courtesy and coordination.
Yeah.
But really that was the only, it seemed like a pretty straightforward process. So, we'll be working on announcing a date for that shortly. I don't think that that's speaking out of turn at all.
It's just that they're hearing for that.
Yeah, there is for sure. Are there any other items on the purview of the listers that kind of keep on our radar?
I'm not sure. The listers caught a data error. Looks like it was a NEMRIC data error, and they corrected it. In so doing, they changed the assessed value. They lowered it in this case. And now we listers have to send out a change of appraisal notice. And there's a certain period of time that the change of appraisal notice goes to the property owner. And it's only when that time is over and that's resolved that we can lodge the abstract of the grand list. We're hoping to do that tomorrow. It may be that we can't do that in 2 weeks to check. This may, so it's starting to get kind of tight then as far as coming up with a final grand list on which to base the tax rate on.
Is there any, well, I guess we can't,
Wouldn't the appeal also need to be resolved? Wouldn't the appeal also need to be resolved before
That's a
we
good question.
finalize the grand list?
This change of appraisal notice you were sending out?
no, the appeal,
There's a.
Yeah.
I wish there was an easier way to deal with it so we could watch the grand list and then handle other problems through the Board of Adjustment in the form of abatements. Dollar wise, it would work out the same and would let us set a tax rate in a timely manner. I think I want to talk to our district advisor tomorrow about this.
yeah. So we'll have I guess another meeting before the end of, should we put that on the select board agenda to have a conversation about that so we can provide some direction? Would you prefer to hear some direction, I guess, from the select board about what our comfort level would be and potentially setting a?
No, I'm talking to our district advisor.
Yeah, okay.
I don't even know if the abatement thing is an option. But in some ways it's easier.
How many impacted properties are there by the that are impacted by the discrepancy, the error?
What's that?
How many?
Just this one,
Oh, it's just one.
just this one, so, yeah, nothing else has arrived. In follow up.
And after we watch the grand list, if someone comes forward and says they found a data error and they'd like to see it corrected, then it goes to the Board of Adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, well, I'd say we should probably add that as a possible agenda, just to check back in on that for the next meeting.
Okay.
Any other?
Yeah, so we're having a training tomorrow about what to do in a reappraisal year to finally file the grand list. So a couple of steps that we need to follow through on. After tomorrow, we'll sort of have an idea of what that is, and we can give you some indication about where we will go as far as the grand list finalized.
Yeah. Great. So sorry, that seems like it might be a little premature that we have some outstanding questions. So we'll maybe have an agenda item to check in with the listeners
We can just
the next meeting.
We can just send you an update on
Sure.
what the status is after we finish up with our district. In 5 days tomorrow, about more we can the final grand list lodging will take place.
Can I ask how the listeners are feeling about the appraisal process? Just kind of as a check-in on the summary. I don't think we've had an opportunity to really hear from the listers on how the process went with NEMRIC and the hearings. Anecdotally, it seems like it was smooth relative to others.
I was surprised and disappointed how little the listers were involved in the whole process. We we stuffed envelopes, we cut postcards out, we did mass mailings, and we sat there during the grievance hearings, but the conversation was between the griever and Nemrick. We just sat there. Just disappointment. I hope I never have to go through it again. No, right?
Only 6 years away, John.
Yeah.
I was surprised that they used multipliers to increase value versus using actual numbers and
I was too. I mean, in part they do it because when they use the marginal and swept cost tables, those cost tables are gonna be different when they're applied to someplace in Georgia or Mississippi compared to Connecticut. So they have to use a multiplier. 1.5 seems like a reach, so.
It also seems like anecdotally, some of the assumptions around developability relative to kind of the region and land use regulations there are just a lot of assumptions baked into some of those multipliers. I think that were somewhat problematic, I think, for our region and probably most of other rural regions of the state, but.
I think they rely a lot on 3 years of sales that show what the market is. So essentially, their intention is to get to a full price marketable value for properties in Calais as of this window of opportunity.
Sure.
And so essentially, their formulas are all based on recent sales. There's a lot of the recent sales show up as very close to what their new reappraisal number is. So essentially, the marketplace is setting these values. And then they have ratios that make sure there's equitability in everybody in town. So the range of differences between people is all related to making sure everybody's paying a fair amount on the actual market value of the property.
That was a question I had, is that it seemed like the average increase that they came up with was what you would have expected from the CLA.
Yeah.
But is it your sense that they were kind of working to that number?
They
wanted it to
sure they were
match something?
aware of it as they were going along. I don't know if that was a target, but that was one of the things they were checking this on.
But again, that's an average. So essentially, the average increase was 1.8 on people's property from the last valuation. There's some people that were 2.2 and some people that were 1.5. So there is a variation that relates to the value of what they saw on the ground. It wasn't just 1.8 all the way across the board. I was 1.7, I think. And, there's a list of all the properties that have the ratio that the increase was, and we can share that with the Selectboard if they're interested.
But the CLA is supposed to be a reflection of fair market value compared to assessed value. So it's not unreasonable to use the CLA as a target because it's based on sales. And they drove home to us that everything they did was based on sales.
Yeah.
So in previous years of conversations about, funding the listers' positions and thinking about how we're building out budgets, there has been discussion about a need to potentially consider at least making a plan for having to hire professional assessors. But I'm curious where you guys feel like we're falling in the spectrum of that conversation. And then I guess in addition to that, assuming we don't get there and we're going to be hiring a professional assessor for the next round of valuations in 6 years, are there specific things that we should be requesting so that we're, having the listers participate more?
A lister, regardless of how many votes you get. If you vote in, you have to demonstrate a certain amount of training annually. And the 3 listers are working on that training. We're in good shape in that regard. So right now, if a listener wanted to get out of this job, all they can do is not go to the trainings and things. The state would kick us out. So I think we're here until until they drag us out.
So is it fair to assume that that we would be looking at contracting a similar reappraisal service for the next time around, or that it would be performed by
I
listers?
suspect next time around they'll do a statistical update. They're not going to do a knock on every door again. So they'll sample maybe 50 properties and they'll get an idea of where assessed value is compared to fair market value. And then basically multiply everybody by a certain amount. Maybe it'd be an extra 10% or something over 6 years. I don't 15, I'm just making numbers up. But that's how a statistical upgrade works. It's based on a sample. And that's what we did in 2015.
And what happens following that is the state does the CLA every year. So essentially, no matter what that appraisal is after a 10-year review, the CLA is still going to determine what the tax rate is. So your properties, if it's worth 250,000, and the state wants to pay you to pay tax on 350, you'll pay tax on 350 because of the CLA. So essentially, the state is going to generate that differential every year based on they're calculating the CLA for Calais. I think, you know, thinking if John Wilson and I were still around, doing a full door-to-door reappraisal by the three listers is not anything that I see in my future.
But doing a statistical update, is that something that could be?
Well, I think you have to
reasonably
understand what parameters they use in order to get to that statistical number. I mean, they have so many spreadsheets and formulas and stuff. I know it would be a lot less than door to door, and you know, an outside agency can stand up to the state of Vermont to say those values are irrelevant.
In the 2015 statistical upgrade reappraisal, the listers did attend all the site visits with NEMRA. We tagged along with NEMRA. And we were more involved, or a lot more involved.
So is that something that we can have represented in the contract? Like, is that desirable?
Pay a lot more attention to the RFP next time something goes out. I'd like to see the listeners be more involved.
And I'm also wondering if we're setting kind of a date certain to kind of making some assessment or evaluation of what that is, so that we're I think the communication around what the process was going to be was pretty good. Largely, you know, Tegan did a great job. I don't think she was obligated to do that, but it was going to be such a big process that the town was pretty proactive in communicating what that process was going to look like. But I think in advance of the next time, having whoever is going to be contracted to do that, to have an informational session or a training session just to inform us, like what's the calculus going into that, so that there's just a baseline of understanding what the inputs are. I think would be great. I don't know what would be the appropriate trigger for that. We're talking about something that's 5 years out.
At least.
Yeah.
The good news is there's still going to be around a little over $20,000 in the reappraisal fund. And the state contributes to that each year. So that shows me they're providing enough to get this done, even with a contracting that. Just good.
Do any other select board members have any other questions for listeners?
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
There's no
Keep listed.
John, you want to carry on with zoning? Or?
There's nothing really to report on. Things are fine. I'm good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I approved 3 applications today. It hasn't been very busy though. We're halfway through the year, and today was application number 10.
Wow.
I'm surprised, I was hoping maybe we get another house or something, but it's got some porches and outbuildings.
Still really expensive.
Building is expensive.
Thanks, John. I think one of the conversations that we had was, were we going to make a change? We were considering a change to the assistant zoning administrator position and eliminating it? No?
We've appointed Meadow to
Yeah,
be our.
right. Never mind. Sorry.
Not
Of
eliminate,
course we did.
the opposite.
Opposite of that.
John's approach for training has been, on-the-job training.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of.
I've been copying that on correspondence to have people and I'm discussing the application and what I see the issues are. That's the best I can do right now.
Yeah. Meadow, are there things that you're feeling like maybe you could get into? Trainings, John, are there trainings that, I mean, I think on the job is great, particularly because there is so much, nuance to it and it is so site specific and it gets very theoretical very quickly. But when you're looking at land use regulations, but should there be an opportunity for training, I don't think we want to miss it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. John's initial advice a while back was to just review the zoning regulations, which I have been doing. And I've been studying those. I created a little spreadsheet matrix to just like have an easier time understanding where, permits are needed and not, when they're approved by the zoning administrator, when they have to go on to the DRB, or when there's other conditions that need to be met. So I've been taking time to do that learning. I feel pretty comfortable at this point with the process in the office for people turning in applications and for directing people on the phone when they have questions about applications or when they need to talk to John. And so I feel pretty comfortable routing those conversations and facilitating that now. I think the next step will be to go out and put up letters, and
You got the job. I'll give you my grades today.
but if we could do something like that together and to get a flow of it, and any place where I'd be able to step in and like John could delegate something to me, where I could provide support, I'd be very happy to step into that role. So, yeah.
Great.
It's great.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Well, thank you both. Appreciate the time. Next up is also another spring check-in with the Conservation Commission Chair and Tree Warden. Neil, welcome. Good to see you. Which one would you like to start with? Tree Warden?
Sure, the tree warden, there's not tons going on with the tree warden.
Yeah.
I probably visited a couple of people's properties, but most of the tree warden stuff that comes up is like looking at roadside trees to see if they're hazardous.
Mm-hmm.
And recently looked at some on County Road and kind of flagged the ones that are hazardous, and the landowner who's thinking about doing some work cutting trees themselves, which is great because then they won't fall in the road. I think that's kind of all that's going on with the tree warden.
And those were, you were contacted by the landowner, just wanted to hit the
Yep.
rain. Like the
Yeah.
road didn't, I haven't heard about these, so I was just curious.
Oh, yeah, they called me as a consulting forester.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, these are roadside trees, like this is
Yeah.
a tree warden thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if there are trees that are hazardous, then they can kind of cut them and they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
If they're not hazardous, then there's a notification process now for the shade tree standards, but that hasn't happened since we wrote the shade tree standards, I don't think.
On that note, I'll just say that the Washington Electric Co-op's right of way person lives in Calais, and he's very responsive. So far.
Yeah,
So Patrick Davis, so he's a good contact to have, and if you ever need,
Nice.
I can share his contact information with you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I
Uh,
don't think I've connected with him, but they seem like they've usually been on top of stuff. So.
Yeah.
well, that brings up the one I mentioned, I think the last time you were in, I've got a ash that's on our property. It's definitely showing signs of being dead. It's in the right of way.
Yeah,
And it's a pretty decent size and leaning toward the road. And also it's on the Apple Hill side. It's kind of an extracurricular, maybe you and I could take a look at it. I'm certainly not going to do it. And ideally it would be nice not to have to pay a tree service to do it. And I know GMP is usually a little more proactive that if it's going to be actively threatening or posing a risk to their lines, that they'll take care of it at their kind of availability. But is that a conversation I should start with WEC or
I'm happy to
you and I?
look at it with you, and maybe we can, just see where it is in relation to the power line, and when WEC's the best, if you can get them to do the work, then that's ideal.
Yeah. All right. Well, fine. I'll figure out a way to get you down to the house. That sounds good. We'll find a time. I've got some other stuff to talk to you about too. That sounds good. Conservation Commission.
One question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
We had the open question of the deputy tree warden position.
Yes. Thank you, Meadow.
Yeah, and if that is something that we wanted to keep, if you felt like that was.
Drew has been the deputy tree warden since he was the tree warden. And I honestly haven't spoken to him about tree warden stuff since then. So it doesn't feel totally necessary to me. I guess the one caveat is like, if I'm away and something comes up, and usually things aren't timely like that, but if the road crew is doing something and then there's like that placeholder there, somebody who can come step in. So I don't know if it's valuable in that sense, but like I said, it's been, I don't know, a few years anyway, and it hasn't worked.
Could you remind me of Drew's last name?
Lamb.
Lamb. Oh, of course.
Yeah, I think relative to the scope of work, if I could kind of be obliged to speak to, I mean, it seems like an extra position to kind of hold as a placeholder. But if it's not particularly timely, and even with the road crew stuff, it seems like there's, with adequate training and understanding of circumstances, like we could either, table any kind of decision or work with a staff or road foreman to understand what needs to be weighed there to make an appropriate call.
I think that's right. And then the other piece of it is like Drew would be able to step in, but not anybody would. So then it's like if you had a assistant tree warden, they need to kind of be up on what was going on and know how to assess hazard trees and stuff. So there is another layer there too.
Drew and I had spoken, and Drew had the intention of wanting to step down if somebody else would step up, but was also, he's going to be around and is open to being able to be available if needed. But I think it was just from our perspective, the open question of, is that something that you want us to seek reappointment, or is it okay if that position remains open, or if we want to do something different there was the open question.
I mean, I think if there's consensus on the board, then we wouldn't be able to, I guess, do it now, but maybe in the next meeting, consider the elimination of the assistant position, and we can always entertain adding it back in if it poses a problem. And by default, the select board can act in the absence of an official. So I think we're pretty well covered relative to the responsibilities. So let's do that, see how it goes, and we can always consult. The select board can choose in its discretion to consult with somebody who's an expert in the absence, I'd imagine. So
I would say we always appreciate your help, and if there is anyone else in the community that you think could be, would be appropriate, it would be helpful just to have some names, in our pocket, a little bit about who, if, you know, in the unlikely event that you wanted to move on from being tree warden.
Yeah.
To the advance to the master tree warden level.
Right.
You know, I was, my wife earlier, and she was like, how long have you been doing this and you still don't have a badge?
Deputies.
Dang it, okay, well, that's all it takes for another 10 years, so we can figure that out. But I honestly though, you know, there's the depth of our understanding of who else might.
Yeah, the arborists rise to the top of the list. Like,
Sure.
an arborist is in a great position to track.
All right,
Well, thanks for your continued service there, Neil.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
we're not letting you off the hook, just to be clear.
Not even close. If we need to get a badge, we can more easily stir that up.
Noted. I mean,
Let's keep that in our back pockets, though. Conservation Commission, how are things going?
Things are going well.
Yeah.
We've just been kind of forward thinking the last couple of meetings, looking ahead to what we want to be working on. And there's a lot of interest in being a little more like public facing. So there are a couple of people on the commission that are wanting to be kind of outreach coordinators and trying to bring people in through Front Porch Forum, I guess, more in what we're doing. And then there's a number of things that are kind of happening along the roadsides, and that seems to be kind of an organizing principle for us. So we just started a subcommittee that's gonna kind of think through different things that are happening and prioritize them, and they'll meet before our next meeting. And one of those things is the invasive project that the Lakes and Streams is doing, which we're trying to help on.
Yeah.
There's also this urban and community forestry program, put this great report together for the town a few years back. It was like a report on our roadsides and the health of the forests along them and all these different aspects of it. And it kind of like got put on a shelf, you know, the ash borer stuff came out of that. A lot. So we're gonna revisit that.
I don't think that we've had this conversation necessarily about the Conservation Commission, but as part of as part of the newly adopted kind of appointment procedure that we've adopted and trying to follow. The conversation has come up a lot about the size of various committees and commissions relative to the scope of work that they're doing, and how that can either benefit or hinder or just kind of challenge the town in filling open seats and vacancies. And I'm kind of curious to get maybe some feedback from you on, even if anecdotal, on how you're feeling about the size of the Conservation Commission, whether and maybe that's just a topic that we'll leave at that, and you can bring back to the group. I don't think that there's at this point any particular interest in reducing the Conservation Commission, because I think it is pretty well populated at this point, that we just had some a resignation that we'll need to fill, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, we're down one person, and I just heard interest from somebody, so maybe we'll fill it. But yeah, my first impression is that I think it's a good size. Like, it can be hard to do some projects with that many people in the room, and that's part of why we're like trying to do subcommittee and break things up a little bit that way. But just with, you know, people being away for different things, they need some critical mass.
Yeah. I think it's been raised more in the context of other committees and commissions that have like heavier scopes of work. it can be hard to kind of get the consensus around and just get things done when you have such a large group.
3 people is way more efficient, like
Right.
actually getting something written or whatever.
And there definitely is a balance, for sure, because you want to leave enough room for people to be different views to be represented. So there's a balance, and I guess to that point, one of the other lines of communication that we've kind of developed as we've been trying to go through this continuous improvement process is treating the handful of our subcommittees as on like a hierarchy of priority and consideration in the appointment process, and the Conservation Commission relative to its statutory obligations is kind of falls into that category. So to the extent that like there's a balance of very particular opinions or skill sets that should be represented, even if we're falling short of what the ideal cross section would be. If the committee would put together or start thinking about like what that list of skill sets and representations are, I think that is really empowering information. I think the same will go for like the DRB and the Planning Commission. So
Yeah. That's great, kind of coming off our last meeting and talking about what we'd like to be doing.
yeah.
We're probably in a good place right now to have that conversation about what kind of skills we need on the committee.
Great. Are there any other questions from
I'm
the
just
board?
curious if you're exploring any conservation easement opportunities this year.
There's one out there that was gonna happen in the fall, or not the fall, it was gonna happen in February or something, and the closing got pushed off, and I'm not sure what the status is right now. So there's only one that I'm aware of. And that was another thing that we talked about, being more proactive. To, teach people about conservation easements and we haven't done that yet.
Yeah. I shared with the select board the BLT's letter about the closing on the fish farm.
Are we gonna have a conversation about the Planning Commission and the Conservation Commission at some point, or is that?
The town plan.
Yeah, and how things are going there?
We certainly can. It's not on tonight's agenda, but it fits into the appointment discussion. I mean, we'll need to discuss it based on Jared's email.
Exactly.
We're going to be shorthanded in planning.
Right.
Yeah, my understanding is that a lot of that is in the Planning Commission's court at this point. Is that?
We were very actively involved earlier on, and now lately we've been kind of playing a support role, but not leading the asset, more of a commission. And I think they're still doing another section too at the same time, so they're kind of skipping back and forth.
I'll admit that there hasn't been a ton of line of sight, and that is part of the challenge right now. And we've got some other information that's a little bit confusing. So
we should talk about it in the appointment section.
Yeah, let's do that.
Timing.
So
that'd be great.
let's move to that. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it. If anything comes up, certainly let us know.
Thank you. Good. Thanks, guys.
Appointments. So we have a couple of potential appointments to consider. The first being appointment to conservation, or no.
So what we have is basically 2 blocks. One is a non-incumbent is. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Karina Lau, I believe, for emergency management. And that would be a 3-year appointment. Karina's application was in the folder. Seemed like a good fit. I don't recall if anyone from emergency management was consulted on that?
No, and Karina hadn't spoken to anybody or the chair of the committee,
And she's not here.
not here.
Perhaps we should.
We can table that one. I think that could be appropriate.
Encourage them to talk to one another, right?
Okay.
Right.
And then would you like to meet Karina next time if she's available?
Certainly short of having any feedback, I think, from members of the emergency management committee, that would be helpful. I think if it's not a contested position and we're not considering multiple candidates for the same position, as long as the committee has had an opportunity to engage, or the chair has had an opportunity to engage, I think that certainly would be fine for me. But
Yeah, and it would be nice to fill that. I mean, emergency management is pretty critical.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So we have the appointment list, the 2026 appointment list that's in the share drive, and am I understanding that correctly, that this is updated, so that page one is the incumbents.
Yeah, so this is the block of
Yeah.
incumbents
The green
who would
list,
like to, or were willing to serve again, and there's no other applicants. Is that the right way to describe it?
Yeah,
so, and those are all people that are doing good work at their current positions.
That is our understanding.
Yeah.
So and each of these terms, or different ones of these terms, are different lengths of time. Is that right?
yeah, depending on the mission committee.
So it's another appointment for the term, the same length of the term they have served, something like that.
Yeah, this table needs one more column to
Yeah,
show
yeah.
when the next term would end.
Okay, but that's
But you can
what
sort
we're
of,
doing.
yeah, you can sort of
Mhm.
forecast how long these terms are too.
All right. I'm good with all of them and don't need further discussion from you.
Did we
The green list.
finally get a confirmation from Jared Thomas about the being CV fiber alternate?
Yes.
Okay.
Who's our main person?
David, yes.
Still there.
Yeah. It was briefly swapped, and then there was time commitment issues, and David stepped back up to fill the role again. So, but I think it's still worth finding somebody who might be motivated to serve and mentor under David. And we were still waiting on confirmation from Jared on whether or not he was going to be committed to the alternate position, but it sounds like he's gotten back to us. So that was my only outstanding question there. Are we comfortable making a joint motion to accept the slate of reappointments for incumbents and non-contested seats?
So moved.
To reappoint this list of people, yes.
And is there a second?
Got it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Does that bring us, so the next meeting will have another slate of a couple of appointments to consider as well?
That's right.
So the following lists are people whose positions we need to fill, right?
Yep.
Right.
That's right.
I'd say the top priorities at this point are the emergency management director,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then planning commission.
Right.
And based on Jared's email, we have 3 seats.
Right.
One potentially interested candidate. We haven't received an application, but Meadow reached out.
Okay.
So we will, well, Meadow's already started with some additional recruitment, but we're that's an area of focus for us. And if you have suggestions, please pass them along.
Yeah, the emergency management director one is the one that's making me most nervous.
Right.
It's a very specialized interest and
Yeah.
skill set, and we're losing somebody who's willing to continue to serve on the committee for now, but that's going to be a big hole. So
And it has to be filled, right? There's no vacancy allowed there, so we may need an interim solution if it comes to that.
Is it like June 30? Do we have until June 30?
I believe so.
Yeah. James is going to be starting, I think it was a master's program, so he was looking at, he was still pretty hesitant to extend that by any amount. I don't know to what extent he might be willing or compelled to do that if we are in desperate need of having somebody continue to serve, but short of finding somebody who's willing to accept the position and in an interim designee, and it doesn't sound like there are members in the committee who are willing to serve at this point in that capacity. It was very challenging. Does it need to be somebody who's in the community?
That's a great question. I don't know if it has to be a resident. Yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I suspect not. It's an appointed position and it's a paid position. Stated. So.
Have we had any conversations with the adjoining towns about sharing this position?
We have not. I think that's a valid thing to explore. The trick is that they need to sort of chair up the committee, right?
Right.
So it's not, they need to have a certain level of involvement. And even though there's a stipend, it's $1,200. I don't know that that's
For the year.
for the year. That may or may not be enough to induce someone from outside the community to contribute their time. And
But if there is a joining community, we could.
Well, and I guess what's dictating that they be the chair of the committee? Is that statute?
no, that's true. That's true. Maybe they don't need to do it there.
Well, and I think that's one of my questions about the existing committee. Is it that they just don't want to run meetings?
James. Or,
Not James.
oh, the existing.
The other committee members not being,
No, I think it's the responsibility
it's the responsibility of the role.
It's the state,
Uh-huh.
sort of the state level coordination aspect. I think they're fine running the meeting and doing most of the legwork. They just don't want to, there's a lot of
So we could
paperwork.
We could bifurcate then. We could have an emergency management director and a chair of the committee.
Yeah, maybe we should have a conversation about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it on the agenda then for.
Just being frank, I've been reluctant to put my name in the hat.
Right.
In part because of that full scope, and if that scope can be divvied up into administration and committee, running the committee, then it might make more sense.
Yeah, I think I'm not involved, is that what I'm hearing you say?
Not really,
No,
but it needs to be filled.
right.
$100, eh?
No, but I think my other question is sort of what it's all been the normal outreach. Right?
Yeah.
And it has really
Conversations are
nothing-
likely the people that come to mind.
Right,
Set them down the right person.
yeah, it's a hard one, okay.
So we'll table a little bit more of a specific conversation around that to the next meeting. Add that to the next agenda. My initial conversation with James is that he didn't see how that would be effective, but it's kind of a necessity. I think we're going to have to kind of get kind of.
Oh, that's right, you had a direct conversation with him, I forgot about that, okay.
It's just kind of tricky to work through that dialogue.
Yeah.
So moving on to public comment. Do we have a handful of members of the public? Two now. John? Linda? Rock, paper, scissors? I mean,
I asked for a moment, came here, I got the notice, for the application, if you wanted to restrict town from roadside mowing along your property line. So I filled that out, I've done before. But, it brought to mind, because I'm already kind of like on getting this turtle out, it's in flower. And it said in the application, unless I misunderstood, that, and Meadows said that you guys would be reviewing the application process at the June 22nd meeting, which made me wonder, are we going to start mowing that late? Because if we are, we've already missed the turtle and it'll have gone to seed, and what we'll be doing, if the idea is to reduce spread, we will actually be causing the spread. And that turtle should have been already being cut. We want to hit the whole town. And it's in flower. It's going to be in seed in another week and a half at latest. So that's a concern. And not to be a complainer, I'm willing to volunteer to do some mowing for you guys if you are looking for, because there's road crew straight out.
They did start today. Albeit it's late, and I don't, to cover the whole town takes several weeks, right? Depending on weather. Now that's been part of the challenge.
So is the road crew gonna be 5 days on it, or is it just like 1 day this week or 2 days, or is time from this?
That's a good question. I think, you know, it's one person. I think they're gonna be hitting as hard as they can this week.
Oh, nonstop. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it was just gonna be 1 or 2 days, I'm willing to volunteer a day a week or something.
Thank you for that.
I'll go if you could. Live with that. And then, and I know your next topic, coming up is local housing development. It was brought to my attention, this is more of a statewide issue, but, there was a conversation with the legislature 2 years ago, 3 years ago, about the concern for housing, rising housing demand. And that was born from data that was collected during COVID. You know what happened? The COVID refugees came here, evacuated the cities, and it happened across the country. And so with that data, the Vermont Housing Finance Agency said, look at this. Our growth, our population growth, annual population growth went like this. And so they took that data, not VHFA, but this Vermont Futures Association, whatever they're called. And they're basically a for-profit or a nonprofit that represents developers in Vermont.
They're a sub-project of the
Kevin
chamber.
Shoes.
It's the sub-project of the Vermont Chamber, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There we go. And what they did was well, the reason I'm bringing this up is that there was an analysis performed by a woman by the name of Alexis Thompson, and she interviewed Kevin Chu. She had prepared questions, and every single question he answered. And the conclusion is, and I'm happy to send you her findings, which are backed up by Kevin Chu, because they're his statements, were that the actual, what's in statute in terms of the projection of need for housing, the 40,000 some odd houses needed in the next decade, whatever that time frame is, that was actually not based on data. It was based on the aspirations of the Vermont Futures Project. And Kevin Chu admitted to it. They looked at the VHFA data for the 2 years during the COVID situation, and then they took that and they had their organization plotted a number of lines, and the line they plotted, their aspirational line, which was steep population growth, mapped to that 2-year data figure that VHFA had, and lo and behold, the legislature accepted that as the growth projection going forward. Well, if you're paying attention, it's flat, and actually we've lost a few people in the last year, and a lot of those COVID refugees left. The housing issue, is more of an issue of cost. People cannot afford to build.
Just gonna roll this into.
Low-income housing, complex, 2-bedroom units, $550,000 per unit. So I bring that up because this is now coming to the fore and everyone was in a panic, and it's less about data-driven, it being data-driven, but aspirationally driven. And yes, employers need employees, and there's a shortage of them, a lot larger to do with our aging population staying put, filling all these houses. My wife and I being one such case in point. But the other thing is, people have to want to be here, and employers here. There's a question. There are a number of questions raised in this analysis that I'll send to you all. Can employers pay enough, offer a high enough wage and benefit package to attract people to be here? And will those wages be sufficient to be able to afford to buy or build a house? And so aspiration is we want to get more people employed, get more positions filled, but there are some hurdles in the way. And so when we start talking about housing development and who else is going to come here and be building, is it going to be working people, or is it going to be more out-of-staters just coming here to hang out? And so I just want to put that on the radar.
Okay.
And I'll send that. I'll send it to Kari, and you guys can forward her.
Thanks. Not that we have any concerns about equitability and use in public comment period, but I'm just going to kind of roll that into dialogue about the local housing and feedback on that. And you know, I think it apropos, that's the next agenda item. So thank you for the comment. I think I'm comfortable speaking, you know, on behalf of the select board, that the purview of our consideration goes beyond just, you know, a few graphs, and is a little more holistic and just community health. And you know, what kind of opportunities are we providing and supporting? I'm sure the conversation is about, you know, additional housing and housing affordability, not necessarily just affordable housing, as well as, you know, what are the jobs, what are the opportunities that we're supporting or providing within the community, or how are we creating an environment that supports that. So it goes well beyond just adding units, I would say, in its intent. But with that,
Sorry, I just want to flag that Linda had, I don't know if you're,
yeah,
if it's related to housing or if it's elsewhere.
It is related to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we just sort of merge in and
that would be great, Linda, if you go ahead.
So I saw your plan of work for the group of people that you want to appoint, and I wondered what kinds of urgency you can add to that plan of work. So could you ask that group to move a little faster? The other thing is that somebody I live in the house with and I are both on that list, and I think you get both of us if you get David. So I'd like to take my name off of that list, but we're more sort of subcommittee type things when they get rolling. I mean, I'm more of a worker than a board person. So I have forwarded a couple of ideas to a couple of you who've been interested, and I think the $550,000 housing unit is just way out of scale for what families can afford. What I've noticed from the school board meetings I've attended is that they have a very hard time hiring teachers because they don't even want this person, but this person can't bring their family here because they can't find housing. And in particular, if they're only hiring them for half-time teachers. And so, and I know a lot of employers are looking for employees, and so I think we might need many different methods, such as maybe some landowners would donate land, maybe that we could survey the land that the town already owns and see if that land could be available. Possibly a unit could be divided into 2 units with some incentives for the homeowner to divide a unit, so you get 2 units out of 1. Because you know, building new is going to be very, very expensive. And I want to push this faster. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Linda. So Kari had kind of helped prepare a summary and outline of kind of where things stand relative to the feedback that we've had over the last couple of meetings, and kind of working towards developing a charge for an ad hoc committee that can move through a fairly definitive checklist of things. And I think Linda, it very much did kind of come from like, what are the things that the scopes of work that we can immediately jump into and charge this group of individuals to help bring recommendations for the board to consider or specific action items. Has everyone had a chance to review the outline that Kari put together? And the list of possible members is not going to be a surprising one. Those are folks that we've heard from and who have expressed the willingness to work on this. And I think that list of individuals has a fairly acute expertise.
Was Jeremy still planning on it?
Jeremy
Wise.
Was he still planning?
Do you?
That's just a
still
name
has-
that's mentioned. I think Tegan mentioned that.
Okay,
He
okay.
expressed interest in that a while back.
Okay, I just
These are just
wonder the
brainstorming
current circumstances,
as
yeah,
much as
yeah,
anything.
and I understand it's a possible list.
So this is really not based on conversations, other than Gus vocalized he'd be willing.
Okay, that's what I don't think we've really heard from everyone.
No,
Right,
definitely not.
that's what I want to clarify.
Yeah. Yeah, so this would be a 1-year appointment. I think that I just want to, I guess, be sure that we're kind of capturing the intent here. I do think that like the charge relative to the scope of work is accurate. The bullet points of things in somewhat of a priority order of assignments, like reviewing potential amendments to the Cal zoning regulations, and identifying opportunities for zones within the town that would be of higher priority, whether it's an incentive or just kind of a collective agreement through the planning commission that would be, for lack of better phrasing, like kind of a development zone or targeted area where there might be some outreach to property owners in those areas. Makes sense. Researching feasibility of shared water and wastewater resources. Seems like a stretch, but it is one that just keeps coming up as something that is regularly getting funded. And we're being encouraged not to write it off. So I do think that having the infrastructure to support responsible growth can help for sure, especially if it can get funded and reduce costs. And then learning from success stories in other rural central Vermont. I mean, I'd say even just in general in Vermont, success stories specifically around either actions that have been specifically taken, like around land use regulation modification or repurposing of resources and buildings within the community.
Just model, yeah.
Just models in general, or incentive programs or funds. There were conversations about that. And so I wonder if we
Something I would
get.
add to this split list is identifying sources of funding for all of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about, just a quick outline, maybe just 4 or 5 items. What are the heavy hitters of costs here for building? I mean, is it land? Is it the foundation? Is it the septic? I mean, just to be able to know what it takes before you even put a stick of wood up, you know, and how can.
In terms of what's the biggest barrier
Yeah.
financially?
Yes,
Is that what I'm
exactly.
hearing?
What are the barriers? What are the top 3 or 4? So we can be looking at that and saying, can we do anything with this or not? Can't control the price of wood or concrete. But perhaps getting personal land or perhaps having shared septic would be, because if you're gonna dig one, you may as well dig one big enough for 3 or 4 houses versus doing one for each, like you were just saying. So having that list, you know, and there's some people on here that probably know some of that, so.
Right.
But yeah, I think the folks so far, especially Chris Cochran, or if we had somebody in the group that is pretty experienced in building projects and can speak anecdotally about that. It's a little bit of a blind spot. I get concerned about trying to task them with, I do think it would be informative to have a list of, or some sort of evaluation of like what the percentage of building cost is represented by each of those phases, even if it is just kind of a range. My personal sense and experience with these types of things is that it is the aggregate, and so chipping away a percent or two at each one of those phases incrementally it is likely the need.
I think the value, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
No.
I think that part of the value of getting them like a committee together and saying, here are the couple of 5 things that we would like you to look at, is that they talk about that and they immediately come back and say, yeah, we're going to look at these things. This is how we're going to look at them.
Mhm.
And this is what, you know, and we start getting additional information that's formed and framed. And so I just would put that out there, that like, it could be, Bill, that it is that, you know, those barriers that are to new build that are the most important things, maybe, that based on their experience, but it could also be that, you know, as we've talked about, like other approaches, like retrofitting existing property is and splitting that up or whatever it might be, the lowest hanging fruit, that kind of thing. So it's like, I feel like we want to stay open.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I like your thought about flagging that, and I don't think we need, you know, a 20-point list of bullets.
No.
I think having a couple more, like Christy was saying, the funding, you know, keeping funding in mind, and then keeping the barriers in mind, I think are 2 important flags to add to this. I took your spot, sorry.
It's all right. Thanks, Phil. Wow, what commitment.
Yeah. What you won't do, and bang his head to.
I'm not going to nominate you to be chair. You don't have to suck up like that. John, sorry, I just want to finish that line of dialogue.
Bill, what was going through my mind, what are some creative solutions that the town can advocate or assist in? As you all probably know, the state legislature passed a law. It's now a law that towns cannot zone only single family residences. They have to allow accessory dwelling use, ADUs. And those are probably the most cost effective way to increase housing, only incrementally across existing housing stock. And the barrier to that, generally not go well, and well productivity, it's septic.
Septic.
And the cost. So that what would have to happen before the state would approve it would be you have to hire a licensed septic designer or engineer to evaluate the existing system and see if it is capable of handling the additional flows associated with the EDU, depending on how many bedrooms, et cetera. I've always thought about this. I used to be a licensed designer. That if our town could on retainer or hire somebody part-time, and we could, or under a contract, get somebody hired, at least on an annual basis, where we have a fixed cost for septic system evaluation and design, and then also have put out the bid with some small contractor, a standard increased septic system or new septic system build out, because these septic systems, when demand is high, these guys put the wood to you. And if we could have someone on retainer, like we do our attorney, and available to our residents to say, hey, you want to put in an ADU? We want to see ADUs. We want to see older folks have an apartment next to them so someone can look after them. We're getting to be a pretty old town. And we want to increase the housing opportunities.
I hear the sentiment there, Ben. I don't mean to cut you off. I have an emerging opinion around that, and my concern is my evolving concern around the town hiring resources or putting someone on retainer, or even exploring some sort of tax incentive around short-term subdivision activity or something like that. However we want to box that in a responsible way, is that it affords the people who have the most knowledge about those resources the opportunity to develop it. And I wonder increasingly whether or not, especially with the septic, knowing how, even though they're not overly complex systems, they are generally site specific. So anytime and from what I've gathered, hearing folks thinking about pre-built or pre-packaged units or any kind of modular home or something like that, at some point it gets hard to get somebody to commit to having pre-packaged fees or designs that can just kind of be applied when there's an opportunity that comes up. But I do think that it kind of comes back for me to the idea of having a community development fund that somehow gets funded and opportunities get evaluated, and that the use of those resources gets applied, specifically to alleviating some of those pain points relative to how much of an impact they could have on somebody's ability to develop an ADU. So if you have a community development fund and part of that is that it's going to prioritize helping, the responsible designing of septic and whatever you want the hierarchy of evaluative criteria to be for that, but that could be a way to come at that particular thing. Your content, I'm sorry. Linda.
I wanted to underline something that Meadow has sent out, which is there is a workshop coming up real soon in Woodbury about alternate ways of doing septic, I think, or wastewater.
workshop.
And so I'm not going, it's not my field, maybe you'd like to go, but it would be wonderful if we would get a little more expertise on some of these alternative methods that might not be so expensive, and yes, to a revolving loan fund or community development fund, and possibly some private money could also go into that, as well as public money, then as well as grant money.
Yeah,
That would be a wonderful way to hit some of the pain points that Bill was talking about.
and I wonder if that gets bumped up in that list of bulleted items there, because I think that's research that could probably be performed, in parallel with some of the other items on that scope.
But sort of on that note, I was also thinking, Linda brought up some timing.
Yeah.
That this doesn't really
you know, something like this could easily be a multi-year, many-year project. But at some point, and it might be after the committee is formed, we should think through some targets. One that seemed to me a lot, John had the zoning recommendations, zoning changes recommendations, which I thought were really good. And we usually make those changes by town vote at town meeting. So I was thinking one thing we might think through is just like, what would that timeline be like?
To make sure we
To form a
execute it.
committee to prioritize the zoning changes enough to go through the planning and warning processes with a goal of that at town meeting next year.
Yeah, the planning situation is starting to be a concern to me, and I'm now realizing that we didn't have much of a dialogue around that, around the appointments, and we were going to try to get into it. But I think before we can kind of even commit to that, we have to think about how the interplay of the town plan ties into the land use regulations and needing to resolve the finalized town plan process before initiating the zoning reg considerations.
One thing I would just offer, maybe, Jamie, I don't want to step on you. I just would offer that part of the value of putting a committee together is to get other people working on this.
Yeah.
And so I guess I would encourage us to, expect sort of a, I don't know, monthly report back from the committee, and so that we can help shape this with them. But that we're hearing their thoughts and not trying to do the work ourselves in this forum. Yeah. But I love that, like keeping that frame, like giving them that framework in mind, one hope is that we would get that around, to town meeting, execution. But I think, the value is going ahead and making forming the committee and getting them having their conversation.
Right, so can we have a goal of, having conversations with each of these people maybe before our next meeting? And potentially at our next meeting, forming a committee if we have enough interested parties?
Absolutely. Would you like Neto and I to take that on, or the select board members want to have those conversations?
I think it's fine.
That would be great.
So we'll do it, and you like this list, do you want to add any names or?
Well, I'm a little, so I think it's a little heavy on I think Linda not wanting to be on that means that we only have one other woman, and I'm a little concerned about my brain's not working enough to make sure we have sort of representation across Alice.
I'm just gonna jump in here. I will say I've been talking to people all over town. There is a lot of interest.
Yeah.
In this topic. So I think probably we will find people who want to serve, who might even be women.
Right, and one thought I have though, Linda, is that that we've discussed is just that having this committee together doesn't mean that they're the only folks talking about this, right? One assumes that one, I think, will be conveying that we'd like to see some convenings and discussions such that a lot of ideas are brought forward. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, that would be helpful as well.
I'm gonna put a more kind of political bent on this, so apologies in advance, but I guess this is a very specific scope of work relative to what kind of feedback we're trying to get. And I think to a certain extent, diverse representation is important, but I also think that the cohesion of the group to be able to work through a very specific scope of work is really important. And we're asking folks to give feedback on some very specific things. And so I think that gives us a little more leeway in being discretionary in who we're appointing to this list.
Yes, we are identifying who's on the committee. I'm saying that there's going to be more than one opportunity for people to come forward, but if there's.
Yeah, I guess I'm just, my concern, and not to object directly with Linda, is that if we make an announcement or a call to include.
I'm not suggesting.
Okay.
What about Rachel? I know Gus is already on, but she's somebody who strikes me as potentially.
There's a connection to the planning commission, which.
Right, it'd be nice to have a planning person.
Richard Manzel or Robin Buck come to mind in terms of financing.
Financing representation would be great. I do think having somebody with, a significant amount of fairly local building experience is pretty important too, just to get into whatever the most recent numbers are. And Chris Cochran is pretty familiar with that, but having somebody who's in it day to day, I think would be beneficial.
Here are the suggestions.
Well, I mean, Jim's on there,
Jim's on there.
but I know he's going to probably push back on that.
He's not one to sit in the committee.
No, he doesn't like committees. That's not always true, but
I don't know if Rick would be interested.
yeah, I do kind of wonder if he'd be interested. But either way, that I think that there are some other builders who might be willing to pipe in there. So yeah,
To work.
doing some initial outreach to this list, and then I think having a charter prepared for the next meeting would be a good target. At the very least, I think we could probably have a charter adopted, even if we're not ready to finalize the appointments to the committee. But that we'll call that Plan B. Plan A would be to try to have at least maybe 5 members that we can pass with the list and get moving. Great, thanks everyone. Thanks for the dialogue and thanks for the contributions. Next, we've got policy review. So we have the adoption of the procurement policy.
Yep. So
Sure.
The procurement policy is coming back to you, no changes in it. It just provided a response on Jamie's question about the federal grant requirements.
Yeah, seems like it.
Pretty stringent.
Yeah.
But we are talking about the difference between micro purchases and small purchases.
Hmm.
We've been through this with FEMA, so.
Yeah.
And if it's helpful, I think I mentioned this last time, I think this is a policy that VLCT is constantly scrutinizing and updating.
Mm-hmm. They give us warnings when they're doing that.
We updated our policy 2 years ago, and it's somewhat different than this procurement policy.
So I wasn't here last meeting, and this is straight VLCT policy.
It is.
Well, it looked okay to me.
I think
We filled in certain things like our purchasing agents, just identifying those positions.
I think that it's good.
And you can follow all this.
Yeah.
This is not,
Yeah,
might not be your first choice.
it provides good guidance and if you were part of the discussion, this is the state, Vermont Emergency Management has been training about how to get ready for flood season. And the #1 recommendation is to
Get your
get
Policies.
data policies up to date and understand what's in there.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thanks for following through on
So, do you want to talk about the other policy? We can wait for, Bill.
Yeah.
Before we.
So the other one is delinquent tax. The delinquent tax policy we have is outdated. It doesn't reflect the current legislation. We knew it needed to be updated. We were just sort of waiting for the dust to settle with the new legislation. So Sandra drafted it based on the LCT's current and updated policy. I did ask our attorney to review it and he hasn't responded yet. He said he would, but he just hasn't gotten back.
Okay.
So, and I didn't put it in the folder. So if you wanted to wait a couple weeks, we could treat this as a first reading, but I think it's pretty solid. It's certainly better than what we have currently. It does not reflect reality.
Okay.
So I don't think that serves us, so.
Well, nothing, jumped out at me, so, but I agree, we want to get our legal review first.
Yeah.
So Sandra's feeling comfortable with
Yes.
following this procedure?
Yeah, it's essentially what we're doing this year.
So I'm sorry, what's the other document then that's in here?
It's the current policy, so you can,
Okay,
The ancient.
from 2017?
Yeah.
Is that when it was?
Yeah.
Okay, I was
It's
looking at it the other day, I know.
we did in 24, we did a full review of our financial policies except for that one.
Okay,
Because we knew that.
We knew that was gonna be like-
to the legislature.
okay,
That's why we held off.
great.
Well, Bill's going to abstain. So if there aren't any other questions, I think we can entertain a joint motion to adopt the new procurement policy, which rescinds the previous purchasing policy adopted in April 22nd, 2024. As well as adopting the new.
No, we're not.
We're just
not doing that.
We're waiting for lawyer.
I'm sorry.
Legal.
But I'll move to adopt the procurement policy as your suggestion.
Okay,
And rescind the purchasing.
and rescind the policy, yes.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Right. Cash management.
All right, so this one's been on the list for a little while. We, have at different times of the year, significant amount of cash, and it's been parked in our checking account where we're earning 1%. So an opportunity, I think, to earn a little better return, but we also, need to be very conservative, no risk, and be able to access it. And so I did some research on different options. Really, what I did was consult Rod Buck.
Yeah, that was good.
And in fact,
I was gonna say, this looks familiar.
the whole trustees, the whole body discussed this when we met last December. And they pointed me in this direction. It just took me a while to get around to sort of analyzing it all. So the recommendation is the Vanguard Treasuries money market fund. It seems to have a good yield and it's very secure.
And liquid.
And there's no minimum. Yeah, it's
liquid, right?
and it's liquid, especially with, I just got the approval today for ACH transfers with our bank,
Oh,
so
great.
should be able to move money around as easily as anything.
Great.
It's a great plan.
Yeah, good.
Excellent plan.
Yeah, it's a great plan. I think it ties in well with the conversation about fund balances and having this element to pair the conversation come next town meeting about fund balance policies. I think is going to be a great one.
The people spoke.
The people spoke, and
Be nice to report back, right?
Yeah. So thank you very much for continuing to pursue that. Is there
So we have to move on that?
Yeah, I would say you should move to open this investment fund. Yeah, it's thinking in this investment fund.
We'll move to approve your opening, Vanguard Treasury's money market fund
Second.
and transferring $100,000 into it.
Yeah, I don't imagine that you're gonna have to approve every single.
No.
No.
I just
Transfer.
want to,
Yeah.
Just
but
the initial, just to initiate, it seems like maybe?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
You will see the balances on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
got it. Great.
Thank you, Corey.
Good.
Yay.
That's exciting.
Moving on to administrative and action items. So we sadly have the resignation of Jared Weiss from the Planning Commission, as well as also Ewing from the Trails Committee.
And John McCullough.
And John McCullough also from the
We have John.
but I don't think it's on there officially.
Yeah, I don't think we got a resignation document from him, so
We got a resignation document.
we did.
Yeah, it did not, I think it ended up in the folder for June 22nd.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we didn't have that in time, so we didn't warn that. Look,
Got it, okay.
Did Jared do a reason?
and Kathy Hensey's the other person from the planning commission.
Yeah.
We'll have next time.
So, Jared has accepted vice principal position at U32 and is going to feel constraints on his time.
Yeah, so not everyone's seen Jared's email, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm realizing, so Jared emailed late last week saying he needs to step down, I think effective immediately, and he was also letting us know that Kathy Hensey and John McCullough will also be stepping down. They have one person identified, Luke.
Benneker?
Benneker.
Who's interested. We provided him with an application. Okay, so we, and he said that they're working on some possible other recruits. And then he also mentioned that he wants to have a conversation with the regional planning commission about finishing up the town plan, which that surprised me. I didn't realize.
Yeah, contracting with the RPC to finish the plan, which that's not cheap.
No.
No, and usually it's covered by a grant, which I think we pursued at the beginning of this and maybe didn't get, or didn't feel like we needed.
His email says, I know we have funds for the PC available.
In their reserve, the planning commission's reserve fund.
Yeah.
I think one of us should have a conversation about Jared to get a little bit more detail about what's going on.
Well, yes, we would like to know the status of the plan and how much work there is to be done.
And what are a little bit about the dynamics on the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have 3 people at once is notable.
Yeah.
Well, are their terms all running or they're all resigning mid-term? It's that their terms are running, right? For June 30th?
Terms written, but
Right, Kathy and John are both 2026.
right. But I'm pretty sure that Jared is.
Jared obviously not, yeah. Okay.
So would you like one of us to have a conversation with Jared, or you feel like that's?
I think it should be a select board member. I am feeling a little pinch for my time in the next week.
I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, Bill, if you've got time, that would be greatly appreciated. I think key questions for me are, has there been dialogue amongst the committee about who might be stepping up to the role of chair if he's stepping down effective immediately, and then what the immediate next steps are for the plan, and I don't think we can really.
Well, and the status, I think, of the plan.
The status of the plan, how much work remains to be done, and what is he thinking the RPC would do?
Well, and what happened? They had over a year
Right.
to complete these 2 chapters.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not, sorry, just remind me how the chair, it's our prerogative to name the chair. It's not that the committee names the chair. Is that correct?
Somebody clear on that.
No, they self-organize.
The commission or.
Yeah,
They do.
It's chair.
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, without any leadership, that's even more, concerning about the scope of work. So knowing
Yeah.
what the conversations are, and then, I think that this is.
The CVRPC.
If there are specific issues with, I think for whatever reason, the dynamic that was playing into the lack of kind of productivity or progress being made on the plan, considering how long it was, I mean, we need to know that.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Plan was completed and approved, but for the natural resources section, right? And then they wanted to add rethinking to another section,
They
energy.
wanted to update the data on the energy section.
Yeah.
And go back and do all the other tweaks that they hadn't done.
Right, because they got a lot of public comments on the rest of the
And
plan.
you haven't seen the thing,
Right.
so.
Yeah, I was attending for a while. I just stopped.
Everything wasn't moving well. Yeah.
So I think that also then, relative to some of that feedback, kind of raises the question on what is a productive size of the committee and makeup of the committee, and is this one of those situations where we should be considering reducing the size of the committee, or
Self-produced.
it is at the moment. Yeah.
We've got Rachel, Vicky, Gary, Melanie. Is that all that's left?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Gary, Melanie.
Victoria.
I'm just reading the email, so I don't have the roster in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
but that's small. And with the potential addition of Luke, that's 5. I wouldn't go smaller than 5.
No, but I think that having a thought about who the kind of token representation is relative to the outstanding body of work that needs to be done, it gets a lot more acute if we're going to be going down in size and making appointments to outstanding positions. So that's relatively new news. We haven't solicited appointments or calls for appointments to those particular seats at this point. But
That's what started today.
Yeah, other than what we have been doing, we haven't done any targeted recruitment beyond getting that recommendation and reaching out to Luke today. But for the 2 remaining seats that are going to be open, I would just have to do targeted recruitment at this point. And it'd be great to reach out to other members of the committee. But I think also would love to follow your lead on having a conversation with the members of the committee about what is going on, because it seems like there are a lot of open and unanswered questions about the directions that things are moving. So like I wouldn't want to step out of turn, speak out of turn with a member of the committee by, just having a conversation with someone about where the state of the plan is or anything like that. I just want to be recruiting, but also having that conversation might help understand what the group dynamic is a little bit more clearly, so that it would help us recruit more effectively.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, if you're committed to checking in with Jared and maybe some other committee members, just to get some preliminary feedback, maybe you and I can have a conversation about whether or not it warrants having the remaining members of the committee come into the next meeting and have that conversation, publicly. It's going to be hard, and I hate to drag people in, but short of there being somebody specifically who can speak to it on behalf of everyone else, I think we have to have the rest of the committee here.
Which the most productive way we can do this. I mean, I know Rachel Seeley pretty well. I can talk to her individually. I'm not sure having the whole group in. So
It's like
kind of
another story,
meeting,
yeah. That one, we need.
No.
right?
Mm.
But we do need a little more information in order to help them all move forward, so.
Our next agenda planning meeting is going to be on Tuesday of next week. So maybe by the end of this week, if I could get a little bit of feedback from the two of you from,
Okay.
You'll have that for me by Friday.
Yeah.
Dr. Jared, it is.
that'd be great. And then we'll kind of peel it up from there before our agenda planning meeting. Okay. Thank you. So with that, we have two resignations to accept it, I guess. I don't know to what extent this has to actually be a formal action or it's just kind of an acknowledgement, but yeah. So I'd like to entertain a joint motion to accept the resignation of Jared Weiss from the Planning Commission and Hasso Ewing from the Trails Committee.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up is approval of the May 11th, 18th and 26th
Mhm.
minutes, as well as the June 1st select board meeting minutes, which were posted to the share drive. Are there going to be abstentions? Would you like to
Understand on the 11th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, May 11th, you skipped over because I wasn't here last time.
Mhm.
So I will move to approve those minutes.
Give me a second. There's only three of us.
Second.
All the three of us in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And there any dialogue about the May 18th meeting minutes? If not, can I get a motion to accept the May 18th select board minutes?
Sure.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. May 26th?
26 and the first are both, we do this together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, we can. So anybody want to make a joint motion for accepting the May 26th minutes and June 1st meeting minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Board orders also posted to the share drive. Whatever, it's not the opportunity to review those. Are there any questions or comments, Kari, about the board orders?
I was excited about making the last reappraisal payment.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, yeah, save dialogue around that. Can I get a motion to accept the board orders as posted and sign them?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With this, I'm gonna circulate the journal entries from April. We didn't get those signed last time, so I'm just gonna have that on your list.
Thank you. So next we've got the NCL government capital lease agreement for the 2025 dump truck.
Yeah, so this is just following through on the financing plan that you purchased that you approved back in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't draw on this right away, but wait till the truck is actually available, truck and body are available, so. And everything lined up and ready to go.
And when do we expect it?
In the fall sometime.
No.
Can we get a discount if it shows up after? Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
It's the plow body that's really the holdup. But we were told August on that one, and they said on this one, the body will be ready shortly thereafter, it's like September sometime. As long as we have it by plow season, I think everyone will be happy.
Start negotiating in discount terms if they don't arrive by plow seasons.
I tried to order something from Canada recently for the snow and drift club and 50% tariff on steel. So it's like basically between shipping and steel, it was as much as the thing we wanted to buy. So we had to say no. Yeah.
I get a motion to approve the NCL government capital lease agreement. And I guess
you're adopting a resolution.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, is it in the folder? I don't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it?
No.
Yeah.
Didn't see it either.
Want to hold off on that one? We can do it next time.
Sure.
We get to see it.
Sorry,
I just.
too many documents.
Okay. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
Just got kicked out of the meeting folder. That's fun. Next then is the designate Kari as a voting delegate for the June 22nd VLTC member meeting.
So this doesn't have to be me, but they've asked somebody be appointed the voting delegate for the special meeting. The purpose of it is to incorporate, so I adopt a resolution to incorporate, I suppose, and then amend the bylaws for the purpose of exploring offering a medical insurance health plan for as an association. And they're uncertain whether that'll yield any savings for the members, but they want to explore it and then build some.
But it's for the employees, right? That's.
Employees of member towns.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Cool idea.
yeah, I don't know how many employees of towns there are in VLCT. It's gonna be thousands, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is,
Okay, so I appreciate your offering to do it.
it's a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
An hour. I think the big decision will come later when they've done the research.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this just a preliminary presentation of the idea and vote to incorporate it? Yeah.
Framework.
Yeah, so they can incorporate it.
Don't want to bother. So don't allow the structure for it.
It'll be interesting to hear what their timeline is for.
They're hoping to, if there's value to be had, they're hoping to have something ready by next season, by 2027.
Wow.
Medical insurance deal, yeah. I'll have more details from the meetings.
Does anybody want to fight Kari for that? No.
No.
Can I get a motion to appoint Kari as the designee for the town, or as a delegate for the town?
Our voting delegate.
Our voting delegate.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Last item is the pay and benefit rate changes for fiscal year 2027, since we're almost there.
Right.
And this is really just executing the
It
budget.
was in the budget.
Yeah, already approved by the book.
Everything is exactly as we had planned in the budget, except for the dental premium is a little lower than budget.
Okay,
Amazing.
Awesome.
great.
Does anyone want to buck the will of the voters and change those?
I think we're ready to approve
No,
it.
that's great. I'd love to entertain a motion to approve the adjustments in pay and benefits for fiscal year 2027 as approved by the voters.
So moving.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And reports. I'm excited about this one. Meadow, do you want to jump into an update on the website project?
So just as a very brief recap, we've been thinking about moving like Catalyst as a content management system. Catalyst's business model is to like basically hold everything in the back end, and making even subtle design changes is very restrictive in the system. They charge $220 an hour for design changes. Our website design is like fairly out of date at this point, even though it's functional. There's some accessibility and structural issues that I'd like to change, but hesitant to have us bill $220 an hour and just like stay in that same system. Especially because I have experience doing web development through WordPress. I created that mockup that we looked at. Since that time, I've gone through and looked at some pricing options through Hostinger. We'd be able to get a 4-year web hosting package. They always do a promotion when you get an initial hosting. And it's like, we're currently 79% off, like if you get 4 years at once. So it would cost us like, something absurd, like $149 for the next 4 years to have like stable hosting. It's secure hosting through their site, and they help with updating WordPress management, but all the backend stuff would be just stuff that we did in-house. Sarah Black, our webmaster, is very experienced in WordPress as well. Tegan has experience in that as well, and I have a lot of WordPress development experience. So we're pretty capable of doing that maintenance in-house. After the promotion goes away, like renewing the same 4-year contract with Hostinger to host the WordPress website would cost us about $1,000, which is nearly what we pay now for a single year of Catalyst. We paid $768 this past year for Catalyst. So it's an incredible amount of savings just for the hosting package. We've been also just kind of being as diligent as we can about the security protocols. One of the ways that I was thinking we could reduce redundancy in some of our public information was to just use our Microsoft ecosystem to host a folder that has all of our public documents, and then we would use the website to refer to that. So we reached out to RB Tech. We asked RB Tech if there was any concerns about that. We're still in open conversation. And Ruben is just like spending a lot of time thinking about what are the implications. Doesn't seem like there are any, but they're also just sort of hesitant to say, hey, yeah, let's point the website at our back end just because of what they're used to about security protocols. So we're still in conversation about that. We could go in either direction. If RB Tech is like, actually, it's all public information, so it's really not a security concern, go for it. We would just host our files on the Microsoft ecosystem, which would be a public folder that we would designate in our SharePoint that would be just a folder that the website directs to. If RB Tech isn't comfortable with it, I'm totally fine just hosting the files in Hostinger. They'd be in the file manager of Hostinger. With the package that we would get in that affordable amount of money on Hostinger, we would still have just more than enough storage space to host these public documents.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at in the process. And if you all approve going forward, basically the process would be, we would purchase the Hostinger package and then install WordPress. Then I would direct our domain to the new website. The website would be down for a few hours while I built the template files and then moved all the information over there. And then it would be back up and working basically exactly the way that our current website does. And then we'd have more freedom to just sort of use the blog feature and the news feature and that sort of stuff as we see fit. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions about?
With the required postings of videos of meetings, do we post those elsewhere with a link, or would those files all be part of our memories?
It's a great question. We don't host any large media files on the website. All of the recordings are on YouTube, or they're archived in the Orca website as well. So they're all just linked off.
They're all linked up.
So really, honestly, the only thing on our website now and in the future are PDF documents and the future itself. Cool.
Okay, regarding the linking with our own Outlook servers.
Our SharePoint, yeah.
Yeah, so you feel satisfied that the security of the rest of our non-public materials wouldn't be at all.
Yeah, and you can even test it on the mockup, on the mockup, I did that, I created a little folder in my SharePoint that I created, it was a public folder that I called website. And then inside that, I created a bunch of little folders, and I just set all those folders to share to anyone who can view it, can see the information. And so you can, in the Microsoft ecosystem, you can see breadcrumbs in folders, but if you don't have access to wherever the breadcrumbs lead, you can click on a link and it just says, no files found. And that's as far as you get.
Yeah.
And our VTech's concern, which I feel like is a valid one, is that like, you can still see the breadcrumbs.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But if the only breadcrumbs that people are going to be able to see are all the way back to my website folder, they would see my name connected to that. And my name is pretty public anyway, so it doesn't feel like sensitive information from my perspective. It's all public information anyway, and not, like, there's nothing to hide in that regard. So like, I feel like it's a pretty closed loop, but I'm still really comfortable just waiting for VTech to give the final, way in there. But honestly, it's your website, it's your decision what you want to do there. If you wanted to play around with that too, just like you can look at my mockup, and you can just, like, if you go to the Selectboard page in my little mockup website, for example, you can click on my Calais SharePoint folders, and you can see how, like, what is visible. It's really just a single breadcrumb thing that doesn't really lead you anywhere other than you just see the links that are there. So
Was that on the packet for last meeting?
The link.
Your
Yeah.
lockup?
yeah.
I think,
I think it was in Kari's memo. Am I right?
Yeah,
I think it's in.
it's
Where
Calais
you spell
dot my last name McKenna, which no one ever knows how to spell, so I understand if you.
I got it. It's here. I found it. Thank you.
my concern about leaning too hard on the SharePoint, I mean, I did initially, like, think when we were evaluating SharePoint, I like thought this was kind of like one of the tertiary goals. And, but like, as we started to use it more and just knowing what the migrating process was with SharePoint, there does seem to be like a little bit of an appeal, even if there's like redundancy from like a purely archiving perspective, but like having something that's a little bit independent, even out of an abundance of caution, just so that it's managed separately. If there's some sort of change in rights in SharePoint that make that less sustainable in the future, or some other kind of compromise that exposes more kernel, like more little breadcrumbs. Just reading about something that was a little disturbing today. That was another Microsoft ecosystem vulnerability that just that was fairly elegant and just kind of got leveraged very quickly. So I think the idea of just hosting what we want as, archived information. I think there's also another important conversation to be had around like what we're archiving and for how long associated with the website. Specifically around the meeting packets that we've been talking about, but I think that could be, true for any stuff that we're putting on the website, like previous meeting minutes and stuff. And so, from my personal perspective, like it seems like, yes, they're all public records. Yes, anybody who would ask us for these is entitled to receive them, and we'll have those records. But I do think that there could be some benefit to having just like a rolling window of documentation and that's associated with the website documents. And it seems like that could be easier to manage if it were being hosted on the back end more directly. But that's just a very lay interpretation of how we might be organizing those. It might just give us a little more, some more options on how we create that file architecture, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, not to dissuade that at all, because I think that your concerns about vulnerabilities in the Microsoft ecosystem are really valid. But that's true of pretty much any.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think that it's totally your decision and it will be easy for us to come up with a retention schedule in either location.
Yeah.
I think whatever direction you all want to go, I'm really excited about working with you about what the archiving retention should be on the website.
We should have policy.
And I think that once we have that set up, it'll be easy for us to sort of create a structure and maintain that in either place. So
Can I ask who this to be available for the public, but who is the public? Is the public the townspeople of Calais and that's it? Is it the world?
Well, if we make it public,
It's
anyone
the
in the
world,
world
yeah.
can see it.
Well, that's,
Like a public records request, sort of the rubber meets the road, I think.
Public.
Or public organization.
yeah. Thing is, somebody usually they had to come in. In the old days, they had to test
In the old days.
test for Eva. But she'd have to find one, and maybe she'd make a copy, maybe she wouldn't. But so but to have something available to the world all of a sudden, just from a click, it doesn't seem right to me. It just doesn't. I would rather have a person from the town, whoever is looking at this document to at least put in their name, just do something to say, I'm looking at this. They can put in Joe Schmo if they want, but it just stops somebody from just going in there and just harvesting.
Yeah, no,
It has to be some type of, what is that bot they have on there that verifies you're a human, the CAPTCHA?
the CAPTCHA, yeah. So I do think that, well, yeah, that's kind of the root of my concern. I'm less concerned, I guess, about like the access. We're always going to be obligated to do that. And I think there would be folks that say like, making it harder, having to talk to somebody who's even grumpy about it is not appropriate, and probably
I guess I'm out.
yeah. So, but I do think frankly I do think that the greater concern is that the resources available to crawl that information and store it and compile it, et cetera, is just getting easier and easier and savvier to use and leverage, which is why I think like having a retention policy that is like, it's a window of time that we think adds reasonable value to the community who are the intended accessors of that information. Like, it's nice to be able to go and peruse the meeting minutes from the last year for a subcommittee or even 2 years as a member of the public. I wouldn't think that it'd be unreasonable if I wanted to go beyond that. I'd have to go to the office and ask for copies of them or something like that, or like an electronic file of it, or make a specific records request for more of that. But I do think that there's some balance there of what is helpful context for the community to go back and access without burdening the staff, and then what's the window of time where those kind of drop off, and some sort of regular maintenance schedule, or what the documents are that go on there, meeting minutes and
Should be
decisions.
driven by what are the concerns.
yeah, policy wise, it would be really helpful to have a scope of what items should be considered just like accessible long-term and what items should be accessible for a very short window of time. And maybe one thing that you all can discuss and make a decision on is like, because I think minutes, for example, and like agendas are pretty much useless after the point, so it doesn't really matter if it's accessible. But they're attached to minutes, which are a little bit more useful. It's important for a number of different reasons. But none of those types of documents tend to have sensitive information. Like they're a little bit more general. And also, I think the precedent more broadly, like with local minutes, for example, is that these things are just accessible and crawled by AI that can be searched and asked questions to gather answers really quickly. But then, packets or, the financial reports or things like that, like what is the retention schedule for that versus minutes? Or, like what other types of information should be remaining like digitally accessible over a long period of time?
It may force it may go, so I just, for, as an example, like this weekend, did a Google search, which is now heavily supported by Gemini, to like search another town's meeting minutes of a record of a decision and whether or not that, or even a conversation about a topic that was being had. And it was able to, go through any public record or any digital record of the meeting minutes. And, as a resident, I'm an adjoining town, like that was pretty helpful.
Yeah,
and like,
sure.
even having like 5 years of that available, so and maybe that informs the style of the minutes. Right now, we're getting very detailed minutes that are capturing information. If we want a longer period of time, our summaries of those conversations or the style of the record keeping may change to accommodate that greater length of exposure.
Have we ever asked, or does VLCT have any guidance on retention policies? Like, there might be like a standard answer. Well, you do.
So I asked this question,
Yeah.
follow up to Bill's question
Okay.
last meeting. The
Okay,
attorney said no concerns, anything that, is a public
Right.
record is,
He's living in the
go
past.
ahead and post it, but they said, talk to the loss control person about cybersecurity. And Larry Smith, who lives here in town, worked with VLCT, loss control specialist, he didn't have any concerns. To him, the main concerns are the same things of, good email hygiene,
yeah, no, I meant more, how long, like whether there's
Yeah,
guidance.
he didn't speak to that, yeah. I didn't
Should we
read
make it up?
Can I ask if the warrants part of the packet?
Yeah, they are.
See, I have a hard time with that one, only because you've got invoice numbers in there, you've got vendor names. Someone could call up and say, hey, I see your invoice, and you guys didn't pay me, they could represent, they have 3 things of information.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'm just being foolish here, but AI's not.
No, I don't think it's.
I think you're
I don't think it
expressing
is.
concern that many of us share, and I think the meeting packets was the trigger for this conversation, and I think some of what I recall seeing, I'm not sure if it was this discussion or previous one, was that yes, other towns are putting in packets, but they're not necessarily including the level of detail perhaps that we are at the moment. So I think, redacting or, holding back financial, financial transaction, I guess is what not discussion of budget or that kind of thing, but like transactions like you're discussing.
Leases, things like that, anything that has, someone can, I don't know.
Devil's advocate, I guess, would be that like if somebody was wanting to weigh in on or observe or oversee the town following its budget, or like paying out to its budget, that like they would have a limited capacity to do that without, asking for a copy of the board
That
orders.
could be available upon request.
Yeah, I think things can be available upon request. So if you have the meeting packet available for a period of time, I feel like we're diverging from the website conversation, but
Well, this is a vertical.
I just think maybe the packets don't have to stay beyond
Yeah.
the meeting.
Right.
I can see the minutes being available upon request and some other things, but as far as the whole packet goes, I think somebody needs to call and ask for that and shoot it off to them. I mean, how many people are gonna ask, really? And is it worth having all that stuff up there and putting ourselves at risk when the amount of people who are really gonna look at it, they're just so small. We're not that consequential in history that we gotta put all this stuff out.
Mhm.
I'm just concerned about it.
Mhm.
I don't know, but
Well, let's see what RB provides feedback on. I think on the just kind of security element, and we have kind of, and then we have like more of a retention conversation that may inform a little bit more dialogue relative to what their feedback is, and then maybe we'll just schedule some time to have a more specific conversation about record retention.
I just
have to make another one.
sorry, I didn't look at your mock-up earlier, and I just did, and it's gorgeous.
So good. Yeah.
Yes, back to the website, yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask one other website question?
Yeah.
How does, I don't see on your mock-up a search feature.
It's not there, but I could add one.
I just haven't used that feature in WordPress.
Yeah.
And I know that the search feature on our website is pretty good, and that if you type in, you know, whatever, Curtis Pond Island, then you get any ordinance or any meeting
Right.
minutes or like any document that references it. I just wasn't sure if WordPress would have.
Yeah, I think our website is limited in the way that WordPress is because the search feature of the websites can't look at the internal contents of the document.
Right.
But they can look at the title.
The titles.
And because it's a database, like in WordPress uses MySQL as a database. And so as a SQL file, it's just any search widget will query the information that's in the SQL file and it will point you to the page or the post that has that information. So it's pretty straightforward, pretty similar to how Catalyst's backend works, I would imagine. It's like a little bit restrictive in the part of the backend that I can see in that system. But again, it's like limited to titles. You can't search the contents.
Yeah.
Which with local minutes and other AI feature things like that does crawl the actual contents of PDF pages. But like any search feature now pretty much has access to any database that is front end facing to a website.
Well, thanks again. I think this is an awesome project and it's so nice to have you running with it. So, thanks for the
Were
effort.
you asking us to authorize you to move ahead?
Up to you. If you feel like we want to move away from Catalyst and we want to make this change, we don't have, it's not an urgency. We are paid through the end of December for Catalyst. So we don't have to urgently make any move. Maybe we could sort out, like, if you wanted to talk a little bit more about retention, because currently, since we started sharing packets, all the packets are still linked on our current website. So if we wanted to focus on deciding on that policy before moving forward, we could, but also anytime you're ready to move into the hosting world, I can make that change happen.
I'd say we should, my sense is that we warn an action for the next meeting that authorizes the migration of the site and the associated costs for procuring services. And then we kind of separate that a little bit from the dialogue around the records retention.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be good to have a period of overlap, like when there's the old one is up. We don't want to wait till the end of December is all I'm saying.
And when we migrate the website, I'll be actually shifting the domain name server that we have, calisvermont.gov, to the new web host. So there won't be a period of time when there are two websites available. It will just be the old website will go dark, and it will point to the new website, which will have a maintenance page until I'm ready to launch it, which will probably take a few hours. So we will have like the downtime, some downtime. And I would probably want to plan to do that like on a Friday, Saturday, just so that it's not very impactful.
Great.
Thank you. Not seeing Tegan online. Is there an update from Tegan about anything in particular?
Go ahead. I was going to say, I know you discussed the appeal and the hearing that will have to happen before the BCA. Did you discuss the property tax credit issue?
No.
Today. So Katie Miller was in this morning. She's the Worcester treasurer, and they were a year ahead of us in terms of reappraisal. And she pointed out something that she's sure is going to happen to us that happened to them, which is that property tax credits, this is income sensitivity, folks getting a reduction of their tax bill, the education portion based on their income, lags a year behind the change to the property values. So the property tax credits this year will be based on 2025 values, meaning they won't keep pace with the new value, appraised values. So many people will
be less.
many people will see a 1-year reduction in their property tax credits here in Calais.
In other words, they'll pay more.
They'll pay more. And John McCullough is going to confirm that with his contact at the tax department. I have no reason to doubt that.
Is there any workaround? I guess not.
I mean, this is money coming from the state.
Yeah.
This is out of our hands. And
Yeah.
we're talking about large amounts of money. So that's going to be a hit for folks. And there's going to be a messaging challenge that we want to start getting out there sooner than later.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, they'll pay more for 1 year
1 year.
and then they might still pay more, but not as much.
And they get a lot of
Following
credits then.
Well, the following year, the property tax credit will be in line with the value.
So it won't change their. Okay,
We always pay more, right? Taxes will always go up.
yeah,
But just as a rough example, if your property value increased 80% this year, your credit is not gonna increase
right.
Right,
at all.
based on,
So you may be getting a property tax credit that's maybe a little bit more than half of what it was last year.
Is there any direct, like, do we have any sense of like how many community members?
We can do some research on that. My understanding is that a majority of Vermonters receive a property tax credit. It's scaled. Some of them are very small, and I think the maximum is $4,000. I'll get some more detail on that. It changes every year,
Mhm.
but it's gonna be a hit for some people. And the thing is, that's the average, and, you know, people are, depending on where they are in this reappraisal, some folks, it might balance out because the appraisal was less than
right,
the average, and some people, it might be a double whammy where they have a much higher than average and less credit.
Seems like
so,
it has a
Wow,
higher probability for the, I don't know. Who, so,
letting people know about it.
yeah, well, that's my
Yes.
one question is like, who owns that messaging? I mean, you know, I think one of the things that maybe went well and why our experience was maybe so different from Worcester's is like, staff committed a lot of time to communicating a lot about this in advance. And
Well, you
You
can
know.
help us. We've already drafted some language that we're putting together the 1-page insert for the tax bills. And we're making this a headline. So maybe we could run this by you at the next meeting and give us feedback, because we'd like to start using that document or that message right away
yeah,
before the tax bill already.
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, I think that'd be great.
That's been,
It's always something.
Other updates, Kari?
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's in the memo, but I just wanted to mention the tax escrow issue. The town's been holding over $40,000 in excess tax sale funds because the ownership is unclear, and there was some movement to try to resolve this, but that fell apart last week. And
They don't want the
the
money.
parties cannot agree. The parties cannot agree, and we don't see any resolution to that. The attorney has been urging us since the beginning, where like, get rid of this money, you know,
Right.
move along. And so their advice now is to send those funds to the treasurer as an unclaimed property.
Which is weird, because then, well.
And I have no idea how the parties will
Yeah.
access it, resolve it from there. So I
But
let,
it's not ours, right?
yeah, I let the person that was trying to broker the deal know that. I haven't responded. I reached out to the treasurer to see what their reaction was to this. Does this seem appropriate? And they said to put it in writing, which I did, and they're gonna get back to me. But I'll let you know, because
Yeah.
it's a lot of money and, only,
One hopes that maybe that this move would.
might incentivize that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would vote.
or this eventuality.
And then just wanted to say a little bit about the road crew. They did start mowing today. We've been doing a fair bit of culvert work. And we're planning for our grant projects, our larger projects this year, which the current strategy on Marshfield Road is to replace, actually use a separate grant, the grant and aid, to replace 3 culverts before we do the repaving project. So it's been tricky lining all that up. But it makes sense to do that in that order, right?
Right.
And we do have permission to use different grants on the same section of road. And we're doing this in the context that we have one staffer planning a paternity leave in September and one that's planning a vacation in September. So we really are urgent to get going on this project. And then I'm also preparing I have a 2-week vacation coming up in the beginning of July.
Yay, beginning of July?
Yeah, there you go. Montana, New Mexico.
Nice.
Brilliant.
So,
Nice.
Wait a minute, those are not far apart.
yeah, that's it. I booked those before. Airfares went crazy. So,
All right.
that's it.
So, okay, not wanting to get into personnel issues at all. There was a public records request.
Yes, yep.
Is there anything?
There was no response to my response. There's not an appeal.
Okay.
If there is an appeal, you'll have to
Do something.
produce a decision within 5 days.
Yeah.
As the agent. That was the term of public agent. And then that's appealable to.
Is there a deadline for a?
I don't believe so,
Okay.
but no response, and no response to my offer to make that agenda item a executive session.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Performance review discussion. We're getting into the practice of doing regular performance reviews of CARI, which are generally fairly glowing. There's a process that we went through last time. And last time everybody took a look at it. We're opening it up for feedback, I guess, if you want to include anything else before we submit it to CARI for some additional feedback.
So what, I submit this form to CARI?
Well, CARI, I think, filled it out last year, but
I did a self-evaluation.
that's self-evaluation, and then I compiled that with individual evaluations, all of us contributing to this form.
Although this is 2024, did we make?
We did the same process last year. I just didn't have the form. I think, Jordan, you updated it or whatever, you did on it.
I'll have to look, make sure I'm not losing stuff.
But the question is, do you want that same process? Do you want to complete the form at all? Do you want to get going? I was kind of hoping we could get this done by the 22nd and go on vacation.
Okay.
I think we can, I think this is a reasonable request of you that you're making.
Okay.
And so as a result, I don't think we should make any changes to the form.
Good.
I think we should just go ahead and fill out the form.
Okay.
And we're going to, the process is we submit to Jordan.
Yep.
Individually. And then you do your form.
Yeah, I'll send it to Jordan.
And then what happens after that? Remind me.
Last year, I because everyone's feedback was fairly robust and there was some redundancy, I correlated and tried to summarize. And then we had a opportunity to share and discuss that feedback with her.
Just you and CARI.
Last year we did an
And we did
executive
it
session.
in executive session.
Remember I sat.
That's right, you were in the hot seat,
Right.
okay. And so do we have time for that next, on the 22nd? Yeah,
Trying to make time, yeah.
yeah, okay,
Want to do that?
let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So Jordan, you need me to do anything?
Nope.
You'll take care of it, you'll
I'll
give
take-
people a deadline?
Yep.
All right, and I will do myself one, so.
What kind of deadlines do people need?
I think you need
By the meeting.
time to compile.
Well, you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will have time to compile, next week, but, is it reasonable to try to get drafts back to me, by
Do we have the form?
after the weekend?
Yeah, the form is in the packet.
Is it?
But Jordan's gonna update it with the date and send.
I'll update it with the date.
He's gonna send it to us by email.
All right, all right, all right.
And I'll provide an updated deadline. Do people want this coming weekend to work through it? Is that helpful?
Yes.
Can we make it like a Monday or Tuesday of next week deadline? That'll give me the rest of next week to do the collation.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And I can, whatever.
All of Tuesday, Bill. Well, if I have to rest it through the rest of the week, I can do that.
I'll be away, but you can try to call.
Tuesday, the 16th.
Gotcha.
The 16th.
Tuesday the 16th. I'll put it in the email that circulates the
All
updated
right.
form.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. All right, thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you, everybody.
So in each, where it says meets or exceeds, you just want to X, or what do you want in each one of these?
An essay, please.
Yeah. I think last year, Bill provided mostly X's and Y's and others provided paragraphs. That's not fair. No, any kind of exemplary comment or, anything like that, any kind of superlatives that you'd like to include, any particular notes of, obviously criticism or feedback, is helpful, because I think that becomes the most actionable as opposed to just, yes, doing a great job.
Okay.
But it doesn't need to be a tome for each.
A tome.
Thank you. So the last agenda item is an executive session to discuss a contract matter. That's going to be the last item on the agenda. And I'm going to dismiss Orca. It's not going to be recorded. We're not going to take up any other business after. And we'll take care of updating more notes about adjournment and any reports coming out, and send them over to Meadow. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session under 1 VSA section 313A1A regarding the discussion of a contract matter.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks.